Just before this episode, here's how you can get more from Never a Truer Word. If you're listening to this podcast on Spotify, you can subscribe to this channel to get early access to the weekly analysis episodes, video episodes so you can see the statements as I analyse them, and exclusive content too. And if you're here on YouTube, then become a member of the channel to get early access to everything and exclusive content not available anywhere else. Hello and welcome to Never a Truer Word, where we look at the words that people choose to use to see if they're telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and look to give you an advantage in life as you learn to understand what people are really saying when they talk to you or when you read something they've written. This is an episode about Erin Patterson. Erin Patterson is an Australian woman who is charged with murdering close family members in a bizarre story where it's alleged that she used toxic, poisonous mushrooms in a meal that she cooked for these family members. She is charged with the deaths of 3 people and of attempted murder as well. She has pleaded not guilty. And we're going to look at an interview that she gave very shortly after these people died, and also some of her statement to the police, which was leaked. As we look at the interview, please remember, at the time of the interview, people called Gail, Dawn and Heather, they had died as a result of eating this meal, and Ian was severely ill in hospital at the time, severely ill. He has now recovered. He did not die, so he's one of the charges of attempted murder. But Gail, Dawn and Heather, they were dead, and Ian was ill in hospital at the time of the interview. Let's look at part 1.
It's a tragedy what's happened.
Can you tell us about the meal that you cooked?
I'm so devastated by what's happened, by the loss of Dawn. Dawn is still in hospital. The loss of Ian and Heather and Gail, who were some of the best people that I've ever met. Gail was like...
Take your time.
Gail was the mum that I didn't have because my mum passed away 4 years ago. And Gail's never been anything but good and kind to me. And Ian and Heather were some of the best people I've ever met. They never did anything wrong to me, and I'm so devastated about what's happened.
Can you tell us?
And the loss to the community, and to the families, and to my own children who've lost their grandmother.
We only look at the words that people use here, so forget the body language, which is very interesting if you could see the video there, but we're only going to look at the words that are used and see if we can understand what's going on, bearing in mind a couple of things. People leak the truth when they talk. They might try and hide it, but it will come out in their words. And also, people much prefer to stick with the truth rather than tell a lie. Lying is stressful, so they might avoid trying to talk about the full truth, but they'd rather stick with the truth than have to tell outright lies. So what's going on with Erin here? She starts off by saying, it's a tragedy, what's happened? And that phrase, what's happened, really downplays what has happened. 3 people have died, 1 person is severely ill in hospital at the time, and yet she covers it all with this slightly neutral, really not much has happened phrase, what's happened, kind of like you talk about some spilt milk or a broken mug when you're doing the washing up. It's a tragedy, what's happened. And then the reporter asks her, can you tell us about the meal that you cooked? And this is the deceptive dodge, so common when people have guilty knowledge, which is that they ignore the question that they're asked and say what's on their agenda, what it is they want to say, get across the message that they want to get across. I call it the deceptive dodge because it's so easy to spot. We see politicians do this all the time. They're asked one question and they answer another question, and that's what's going on here, because she's asked, can you tell us about the meal that you cooked? And her answer has nothing at all about the meal that was cooked. Instead, she says, I'm so devastated by what's happened, by the loss of Dawn, and Dawn is still in the hospital, the loss of Ian and Heather and Gail, who are some of the best people that I've ever met. So what happens first of all? Well, she talks about herself here. She says, I'm so devastated, and these are some of the best people that I've ever met. So her answer, although we might think her answer is all about this sad loss of life that she's talking about, actually, really she's talking about herself and her feelings. It's important for her to get across that she's devastated by this, and she really liked these people that she is now accused of killing. I'm so devastated. They're some of the best people that I've ever met. But notice how qualified that is. And this is what I mean about the truth may leak out. She says, Ian and Heather and Gail, who are some of the best people I've ever met. Just some of the best people I've ever met. So really, she's not putting them head and shoulders above everyone else. They're just some of the best people I've ever met. In other words, there are other people she's met that are the best people that she has met. So what's that saying? Is that she doesn't have the authentic language to talk about how she really feels about these people, that she feels positively towards them? Could be. This part's really interesting. She says, I'm so devastated by what's happened by the loss of Dawn, and Dawn is still in the hospital, the loss of Ian and Heather and Gail. Well, actually, she got it right the first time. Dawn is dead. There was the loss of Dawn. And then she corrects herself, but gets the correction wrong by saying Dawn is still in the hospital, the loss of Ian. No, as we said at the beginning, Ian is the guy still in the hospital and Dawn is dead. So she corrects herself, but gets it wrong. Very, very strange. Very not over the detail there. She says, Gail is like, and she's told by the reporters, take your time because it seems that she's getting emotional. She says, Gail is the mum that I didn't have because my mum passed away 4 years ago. And Gail's never been anything but good and kind to me. And Ian and Heather were some of the best people I've ever met. They never did anything wrong to me, and I'm so devastated by what happened. Now, this first line there, Gail is the mum that I didn't have. That's cliche time. Quite often when people don't have anything to say, they'll resort to cliches, lines that we've seen over and over again in fiction, in movies and TV shows, maybe even things that we've heard in life. Gail is the mum I didn't have. It kind of means nothing, especially because there's not a lot to back this up, because she did have a mum, and she tells us, my mum passed away 4 years ago. Now, what she might be wanting us to get the impression of here is, since my mum died 4 years ago, Gail has been like my substitute mum, or the fill-in mum now that my mum has passed away ago. But she doesn't say that. She says Gail is the mum that I didn't have because my mum passed away 4 years ago. This is not authentic language, in my opinion. This is not her talking about her real feelings. This is her using cliches, the things that she thinks she should say to get across how much she loved Gail. But again, we're seeing there's distance. There's no real connection between Erin and these people that she's talking about. And then a couple of curious phrases here when she's talking about people. Gail's never been anything but good and kind to me. And talking about Ian and Heather, she says they never did anything wrong to me. Both statements in the negative. Gail's never been anything but good and kind to me, and they never did anything wrong with me. So she's introducing concepts here that Gail might have been not good and unkind to her. She's showing that that thought is in her mind by saying this has never happened. The thought must be there for the opposite. For her to say it's never happened, the opposite thought must be in her head. Same with Ian and Heather. They never did anything wrong to me. She could have said that these guys were always great to me. These guys were very kind to me. But instead, she introduces the concept that Ian and Heather did something wrong to her. Exact same when she's talking about Gail. Gail's never been anything but good and kind to me. She could have said that. Gail's always been good and kind to me. That would be a statement in the positive, and it would tell us exactly what had happened. But instead, she tells us what hasn't happened. And when you tell us what hasn't happened, there's a world of possibilities open as to what could have happened. Once again, Erin's talk here is all about herself and her experiences here. Gail is the mum that I didn't have. My mum passed away. Gail's never been anything but good and kind to me, just to her. Doesn't talk about Gail as a wider, nice person. This is just what Gail meant to her, not talking about anything in the wider sense whatsoever. Same with Ian and Heather, some of the best people I've ever met. They never did anything wrong to me. I'm so devastated about what's happened. So she's talking very much about herself. Why is that? Is she a very selfish, self-centered person? Could be. Is this all about her? Is Erin's world always all about her and how she gets on with other people? Or is she trying to really show us she's very sensitive to the attacks on her character, the question marks over what she did? And so is her priority clearing herself in the court of public opinion? So she's not going to talk about these people in a wider sense. She's just going to talk about herself. Couple more spots here. She says, I'm so devastated about what's happened. The word so is not needed there. It's a severity increaser here. She's turning the feelings up to 11 with this one. She's not just devastated about what happened. It's important to her to persuade and convince us how devastated she is. So it's, I'm so devastated about what's happened. And we'll see again, we have the what's happened, the softening of the occurrence, the fact that people have died after eating a meal that she prepared. What's happened softens that down. The reporter tries to ask a question and says, can you tell us? And she interrupts and she says, and the loss to the community and to the families and to my own children who've lost their grandmother. So here she finally tries to widen it out. After talking about herself and how this has affected herself and her feelings so much, she tries to widen it out and talk about the loss to the community and these wider families. But she's yanked back by her own words to her world, because this is also, the community and the families, they've got loss, but my own children who've lost their grandmother is also brought up there. So even though she tries to widen it out to the community and the families, Erin brings it woomph right back into her own world with my own children who've lost their grandmother. All of that was an answer to the question, can you tell us about the lunch? And she hasn't mentioned the lunch once. Here's some more from Erin.
Can you tell us a bit more about the lunch?
What I can tell you is that I just can't fathom what has happened. I just can't fathom what has happened. That Ian and Heather have lost their lives, and Gail has lost her life, and Donna's still in hospital, and I pray that he pulls through, because my children love him.
Hopefully you spotted it there. She's asked, can you tell us a bit more about lunch? And we have another deceptive dodge where she doesn't talk at all about the lunch. She moves on to talk about people losing their lives and her children again, but she doesn't talk about the lunch once. Instead, she says, what I can tell you is I just can't fathom what has happened. I just can't fathom what has happened. And that phrase that she repeats twice, I just can't fathom. Well, it's got the word just in there, which always puts me on red alert for deception. And I think what we've got here is I just can't fathom what has happened. She's focusing in and making sure we focus in on she can't fathom. She can't fathom what has happened. I just can't fathom what has happened. But she must have some ideas which she doesn't expand on. She can't fathom what has happened. We've got a whole lot more softening language here, bringing the severity of what has happened down. She talks about there, she can't fathom what has happened, and Ian and Heather have lost their lives and Gail has lost her life. Quite soft terms to put the death of close family there. Not died, not no longer with us, just lost their lives. Yes, it is saying that they have died in literal words, but it's quite a soft way of putting it. Lost their lives is a very passive way of talking about when someone dies, rather than these people died quite a horrible death through poisoning. And she softened that down to lost their lives. She makes the mistake again. Ian and Heather have lost their lives. Dawn is still in hospital. Ian had not lost his life. Ian was still in hospital. Dawn was not still in hospital. Dawn had lost his life. It's a bizarre mistake to keep playing this lack of detail that she has of the situation. She says, and I pray that he pulls through because my children love him. Now, is this invoking God? I pray. Quite often when people are guilty of something, they may invoke their God. They may talk about God, honest to God, or I swear in the Bible, all those things, or talk about their church-going activities, which is a way of saying, look how good I am. Would a murderer go to church? Would a murderer pray that these people pull through? Is that what she's doing here? Is she invoking God here so that we think she may well be someone who's guided by strong principles, strong moral principles? That's why she's letting us know that she prays. And what she prays for is very odd. I pray that he pulls through because my children love him. So it's not I pray that he pulls through because the death of another person would be tragic and just unimaginable and horrible. And, we all pray that people don't die, No, the reason that she's praying he pulls through is self-centered. Because my children love him. So she doesn't just pray that he pulls through regardless, but it is because of her children and the fact that my children love him. Doesn't talk about herself, you'll notice. She only says, because my children love him. If you're enjoying this, if you hit the subscribe button or the follow button, if that's the one that's available to you, then you will get new episodes like this every time they drop. If you're interested in the Erin Patterson case, or you know someone that is, why not share this with your network and let them know what we're thinking about and what we're talking about here, looking at the words of Erin Patterson on Never a Truer Word. Always interested in your comments as well, so you can drop them here if you like, or you can get in touch on social media. All the links are in the show description. And if you do nothing else, hit that like button now. 3, 2, 1. Press, because that helps it get in the algorithm and helps get the word out to more people, not just to find out what's going on in Erin Patterson's world, but giving people that advantage in life of understanding what people are saying all around us. Here's some more from Erin.
And you must be pretty shaken up by this as well.
I'm devastated. I love them. And I can't believe that this has happened, and I'm so sorry that they have lost their lives.
How are you
I
kids?
just can't believe it. Just can't believe it.
So she's asked, and you must be pretty shaken up by this as well. And I think for the first time, she does answer a question. So that says that, you know, as emotional as she appears, at least, we could maybe, if someone was very emotional and in a very bad state, really talking about what's important to them and ignoring the questions, maybe slightly more understandable. But what this is saying is she can hear the questions because she's dealt with this question. You must be pretty shaken up by this as well, by talking about her feelings. And she says, I'm devastated. And then she said, I loved them. Past tense. So one of them is still alive, but she's using the past tense. I loved them. Once more, we have this severity softening. I can't believe this has happened and they have lost their lives. Very soft ways of talking about the tragic and horrible poisoning and death that happened to those people that have died. Right in the middle of that, she says, I'm so sorry. I'm interested in this. I have no firm conclusion on it. We do say when we hear that someone has died, we might say, I'm so sorry for your loss, or I'm so sorry to hear that. And we don't mean any guilt implied by that whatsoever. We're not saying I'm sorry because I caused their death. We're just saying, I am sorry that these people have died. But she says, I'm so sorry that they have lost their lives. What's she sorry for? What part of her actions or what part of what has happened is she sorry for? We don't know because she doesn't say it, but right in the middle of all this talk, maybe when she's at her least guarded around the words she uses, she says, I'm so sorry. Here's the final part of the interview. What do you notice here?
Can you tell us where the mushrooms came from? Were they picked from the property area?
I just ask you to leave me alone now, please.
Police say you're a suspect. Do you have anything to say about
Yes,
that?
I say I didn't do anything. I love them. And I'm devastated that they're gone. And I hope with every fibre of my being that Don pulls through. That's
Where
what I
did the
have to
mushrooms
say.
come from? Were they picked by you, or where did they come from, Erin? Can you tell us? What meal did you cook them? Did you eat the same meal, Erin?
Wow. So you'll notice there several times she is asked more about the mushrooms and the meal, including the questions, can you tell us where the mushrooms come from? Where did the mushrooms come from? What meal did you cook them? And she never once answers any question about the meal she cooked or the mushrooms. All the way through that interview, every time she is asked about the lunch she cooked, she does not answer the question. She's asked, please say you're a suspect. Do you have anything to say about that? And she interrupts. She says, yes, I say I didn't do anything. I loved them and I'm devastated they're gone. And I hope with every fibre of my being that Dawn pulls through. That's what I have to say. So she says, I didn't do anything. That's telling us what didn't happen again. And she says, I say I didn't do anything. Now, that takes it one step removed. So I didn't do anything, very direct. Yes, it's in the negative, but it's very direct. But then I say I didn't do anything. Is that qualifying it? Is it, this is not quite what happened, but it's what I'm saying happened? Could be. The only thing we have to note is that the word say is in the question. So did the question influence the answer? Do you have anything to say about that? Yes, I say I didn't do anything. I always give people the benefit of the doubt. I don't want to rush to judgment on people. So maybe the word say, I say, which does appear to take it away, make it a much more distant denial, may have been influenced by the question. And she does finish by saying, that's what I have to say. So something there, which is if the word say does come from the question, is influenced by the fact that the word say was in the question, then she is hearing the questions. She is hearing and reacting to the questions, which means she's deliberately and very deliberately avoiding questions about the meal she cooked and where the mushrooms came from. Once again, she makes the same mistake. I hope that every fibre of my being that Dawn pulls through. And then just look at the answer there. Yes, I say I didn't do anything. I loved them. I'm devastated they're gone. I hope with every fibre of my being that Dawn pulls through. That's what I have to say. It's all coming from Erin. It's all about what Erin thinks and less about this wider world and these people that have lost their lives. I've got a bit more from Erin here. This is from an interview that she gave to a newspaper. And she says, I lost my parents-in-law, my children lost their grandparents, and I've been painted as an evil witch. And the media is making it impossible for me to live in this town. I can't have friends over. The media is at the house where my children are at. The media is at my sister's house, so I can't go there. This is unfair. Now, we don't know the question that was asked to get this response, but wow, this is real victimhood stuff. I lost my parents-in-law. My children lost their grandparents. All about her. I've been painted as an evil witch. The media is making it impossible for me to live in this town. I can't have my friends over. The media is at the house where my children are at. My children are at. The media is at my sister's house, so I can't go there. So this is all about her, and there's nothing here about the people that have died. So is she attempting here to paint herself as the victim of what has happened here, or another victim of what has happened here? Interestingly, she says, and I've been painted as an evil witch. I've been painted as an evil witch. No denial to that whatsoever. I'm not saying literally she's an evil witch, but she has not said unfairly painted as an evil witch, or I've been painted as an evil witch, which is not true. I cooked a fine meal. I did not know there was anything up with that meal. It's not deliberate on my part. No, there's no denial there. I've been painted as an evil witch. Also, Erin went on to give a statement to the police, and some of that statement was leaked. So let's have a look at what she says in this statement that she gave to police. It starts with, I am now wanting to clear up the record because I have become extremely stressed and overwhelmed by the deaths of my loved ones. I am hoping this statement might help in some way. I believe if people understood the background more, they would not be so quick to rush to judgment. So why is she giving this statement? Well, she tells us why. Because I have become extremely stressed and overwhelmed by the deaths of my loved ones. So she wants to clear up the record because she's become stressed and overwhelmed by these deaths. But not because you want to find out how they died. Not because you want justice for them, or you want to avoid this happening to anyone else, or you want the families to know exactly how they died and under what circumstances they died. No, she's clearing up the record because she wants to get rid of her stress and her overwhelm. She also says if people understood the background more, they would not be so quick to rush to judgment. So again, this police statement isn't about clearing up what has happened. This police statement is about taking the stress, taking the pain, taking the eye off Erin. I believe if people understood the background more, they would not be so quick to rush to judgment. But by the way, notice that if we understand the background more, we might not be so quick to rush to judgment. Not that we wouldn't rush to judgment. Maybe it would just make us pause before rushing to judgment. So really, what she's saying there is her problem is not that people have judged her. Her problem is that people rushed to judge her. The statement continues, I am now devastated to think that these mushrooms may have contributed to the illness suffered by my loved ones. I really want to repeat that I had absolutely no reason to hurt these people whom I loved. Here's the severity softening again. The mushrooms may have contributed to the illness suffered by my loved ones. Erin, 3 people died. That is more than suffering an illness. You have turned the severity down. 3 people died. It was not an illness. It was the death of your loved ones that happened. It wasn't an illness. And she uses this phrase, and you might have seen it in the interview as well. She tells us how much she loved these people, and she refers to them as my loved ones and people whom I loved. And I see this quite often in language when people have done something to their partner, especially this happens a lot in domestic violence, where people say, well, I loved this person, as if loving someone makes you immune from committing bad acts towards them. You know, domestic violence wouldn't happen if that was a fact. If we didn't hurt our loved ones or ones that we claim to love, domestic violence wouldn't be a thing. And it is. People hurt and even kill people that they love all the time. It happens every single day around the world. But guilty people, for some reason, think that by saying, I love this person, then that makes them immune. That means that they couldn't have done this because I loved this person, and they might just be using these words as hot air. Is what is going on here? Erin is certainly very keen to tell us how much she loved these people who went on to die after eating a meal at her house. She says, I really want to repeat something else that I see when people are deceiving. One of the things when people are lying, lying is not a natural thing for us to do. Yeah, telling the truth, explaining experiences that we have had, that comes very easy to us. Lying is an unnatural thing. And one of the things that people do when they lie is they repeat concepts a lot. Why? Well, I kind of think they think the more they say it, the more true it will appear. Or there are also theories that a lying person, they keep saying it because it's really important for them to say it and for it to be heard. And you know that when someone is talking, we don't always take all of it in. We might hear a phrase and focus a little bit on that and then go, oh, that person's still talking and I haven't really been listening. So they will repeat the lie bit over and over and over again to make sure it really sinks in and to make it seem more believable, even though truthful people, they don't do this repetition thing. They just tell you what has happened once. And she says, I really want to repeat, as if the fact you repeat it means that it becomes more true, or it will be more true because I'm repeating it. Not true. If you're a regular here, you will have spotted the word absolutely. I had absolutely no reason to hurt people whom I loved. As I always say, absolutely doesn't prove that someone is lying, but when you hear the word absolutely, boom, red flag for deception. The word absolutely is used in deception so often. Here, it's I had absolutely no reason to hurt these people I loved. She could have just said, I did not hurt these people I love, or I had no reason to hurt these people I love. But instead, it's absolutely no reason. She really wants to convince us by saying, it's not just I had no reason, I had absolutely no reason. She's trying too hard here to convince us, to persuade us that she had no reason. But you'll see, there is no denial there. It is not, I did not hurt these people. There's no denial, just what happened could have happened, but for no reason at all. And that is what we know of the statement that Erin gave to the police. So in conclusion, what are your thoughts? Well, here are mine. Look, in that interview, the first interview we looked at, she avoided questions on the mushrooms and the meal, not taking on one single aspect of those questions, ignoring them completely. Huge red flag for me. That shows there is sensitivity around the meal. She is very self-centered. She only talks about herself and how things affect her. Very minimal talk of how things have affected the wider community, the wider families, relatives of these people themselves. She does not talk about that very much at all. Instead, she's very self-centered. It's all coming through the lens of Erin. And also, we saw in some of the later things that she's claiming victimhood as well. So much of what she said is stated in the negative. She doesn't tell us so much what happened as telling us what didn't happen, even along the lines of saying, like, they've never been anything but good and nice to me. It's all stated in the negative, which shows that that's where the thing is, where her focus is. The thing that she talks about in the negative is where her focus is. Could that, what she's saying didn't happen, could that actually be what has happened? Where did she consider these people not always very nice to her? She downplays the severity of what happened so much, talking about loss of life rather than horrible death, talking about what happened all the time. She downplays the severity a lot there. Look, All of those things are hallmarks of guilty knowledge, of someone who knows more than they are saying, and someone who is doing a little bit of image management to come across as slightly different to the public when they are talking. The trial is set for April, so let's see what evidence comes out at the trial, because what is here is not proof of guilt or innocence, but really it makes me ask lots of questions, and I cannot wait to see what comes out at the trial of Erin Patterson. Your thoughts in the comments, please, if you have that available to you, or get in touch on social media. Subscribe to get more episodes like this as well. Share with anyone you think might be interesting. I know there is a big scene for sharing in Australia, especially where this is all taking place. So yeah, share it with people you think would be interesting. It all helps the word get out there. And if you can't do any of those, the like button would be amazing. If you want early access to episodes like this and exclusive bonus content as well, then on YouTube you can become a channel member, or if you are on Spotify, then you can become a subscriber to the channel and you will get early access to episodes like this and exclusive content as well. And if you want more things Never a Truer Word, then the website is where to go, neveratruerword.com. You'll find more podcasts there. You can sign up for the monthly newsletter. You can get access to loads and loads of videos looking at the words that people choose to use in the news. And as I said, it's got all the social media links there too. We'll see you for something new soon from Never a Truer Word.